Marie Gervais here with Shift Management, and I am going to talk to you today about reasons why you lost your job, clues that you might lose your job, and what you can do about it. So I'm going to do this in 4 parts so that you have the chance to think about how this could affect you or how you have been affected, and I'm going to give you a few examples to show how this works. And this is all because Shift Management likes to help people be happy at work. That's what we do. That's what I live for and my employees live for. We want people to enjoy their workplace. We want people to get past their career obstacles and to move forward towards the job that is going to make them feel fulfilled, pay well, and enjoy going to work every day. Sounds good, doesn't it? So we do that through online courses, we do that through coaching, and we do that through providing value-added blogs and Facebook Live posts, and a variety of other community service participation activities so that we can help people realize their workplace goals. So back to the topic today, and if you're watching the recording, make sure that you share the post, because the more posts we get shared, the better it is for us and the more people will see it. And all of these posts are mini trainings. So they're mini trainings to help you to do better at whatever you're working on, and they give you very practical solutions and calls to action that you can do that will help you right away. When we post them on our website, we frequently add tip sheets and checklists to them that you can download, and so then that gives you the opportunity to apply the mini trainings yourself. So it's like on-the-job learning, and it's absolutely free. So make sure you like the post, that you share the post. And while you're at it, if you have not liked the Canadian Workplace Facebook page, please do that too, because then you will get notifications about the upcoming things that we're doing. And that way, if you're free, you can participate, or you can watch recordings and look at posts later. We like to post meaningful, useful things for people and to share good things that other companies are doing all the time. So back to the topic. The topic is reasons why you lost the job. Now, the first are reasons you have some control over. And when I was doing research to prepare for this little mini training, I found out that there are some common reasons. I looked at about maybe 10 posts and articles about common reasons why employers say they fire somebody. So if you're at your probationary 3-month period and you haven't been kept, or if you've been fired, or if you've been squeezed out of the organization for what seems to be a reason that you feel is unfair, first you want to look at your own behavior. So what are the reasons that you can control? So we're going to look at what you can control first. Check these off and make sure you aren't doing any of these things, because all of these could lead to dismissal. So the first thing is that, and this is really common nowadays, people are not staying current in their jobs. So they keep doing the same thing they've always done. They haven't learned anything new. They haven't taken any courses. They haven't attended any workshops. They haven't joined any meetup groups to meet other people. They haven't networked. And they haven't read any books. So all the people who are successful in their careers are people who read, interact with other people, network, and find things out, ask questions, and get better. If you haven't been doing that, that's a key reason for you to lose your job, because you have basically become dated. You've become somebody who is no longer relevant to the organization. So make sure that's not you. Another reason that people lose their jobs is because they don't communicate. They don't communicate about what they're doing, when they're doing it, how long it takes, and they don't keep their immediate managers in the loop. Or they don't communicate with their team members. So if you're not communicating with your immediate manager because you think, oh well, my manager knows what I do, your manager's busy doing his or her job, not paying attention to what you do. Your job may have expanded, all sorts of things might have happened in your job, and your manager also has no clue how long it takes you to do things and what you need to do to get those things done. So you need to keep your manager in the loop. You also need to communicate with your team members. So if other people are dependent on you for certain things, and you need to tell them where you're at. So you started this, you're halfway through this, you're ready to deliver this in a day, you're late, and you need to have another 2 days to finish it off. Let them know. That's another reason people get fired, is because they don't communicate. And now sometimes people say, oh well, I'm kind of shy and I like to work by myself and keep my nose to the grindstone. you're still going to get fired if that's what you do. So at work, you're going to have to develop the competency of communicating what you're doing and how you're doing it and why and where you're at in the project or whatever the task is. You have to develop that habit. You don't want to do it in such a way that you're annoying people with it, but you do want to keep people in the loop. So make sure you practice that communication. Another reason is people have a low self-awareness. So they don't realize that they're being self-centered, that it's always about me, my problems, my issues, my whatever I need. So it can be that. They don't realize that what they're doing is irritating or annoying to other people. They don't notice what their mannerisms are. They don't get things done and they think, oh, well, it doesn't really matter anyway. So they don't have awareness about how they affect other people, and they're not paying attention to any social clues. Maybe because they can't, because they don't have the social emotional intelligence or the intercultural competency to do it. But it can also be that they just don't do it because they figure that their universe and the way they do things is more important. And that also has to do with a sense of entitlement, which is another reason why a lot of employers don't keep somebody. Because if you think, gee, I should have this, I deserve this, it's a good reason for an employer not to want to keep you on. Because really, none of us should have anything or deserve anything. We're all there to do a job and to be of service to the clients, to the company, and then to go with a paycheck. We're not really entitled to anything at all. And if we have that attitude, we're going to be much nicer to work with. The better attitude is to think, how can I help others? How can I make their day better? How can I make sure that my team feels supported? So if you're putting that in instead of thinking, I should have this, it's more like, what do I think other people could use and how can I bring that to them? That is going to help you keep the job. So another reason people get fired is what employers call moral failure. So that means you make a mistake and you try to cover it up. That's the most common one. Or you make a mistake and don't try to fix it. Or you make a mistake, don't go to the manager right away and tell them I made this mistake, and you don't have a plan for how to fix it. So if you either have a plan or you've already tried to fix it and you've got some results to report, all of that's good. But if you make a mistake and cover it up or hope it will just go away, that's a good reason for dismissal. If, for example, you steal from the company, you pretend that you're going for a sick leave and you use the time to do something else that you'd rather not do, you phone in sick and you have no reason, all of those things are what are considered moral failure because they show lack of integrity, lack of commitment, lack of loyalty, and dishonesty. So moral failure is another reason people will lose their job. You might also lose your job from poor or lowered productivity. So let's say you were doing everything fine and you're fulfilling your work tasks, and then you start falling behind and you're 3 or 4 projects behind, or you're 2 or 3 weeks behind on something, or you just never deliver on time to a client. Those things are reasons for dismissal as well. And so you have to look at your own personal productivity habits and what you're doing to keep yourself on task, and ask yourself questions like, has the job increased in complexity? Do I have more things to do now than I used to have? And then you need to go communicate that to the manager and explain it so that they know what's happening, and see if you can parcel things out or delegate things differently. So that when people lose productivity and say nothing or do nothing about it, it's a good reason for employers not to want to keep you, because they're not hiring you to do you a favor. They're hiring you because they need the company to run, and without you doing your job and producing, it's not going to happen. So they're going to replace you with someone else who can do that. Okay, also insubordination, and then the last reason is complaining about your employer, especially on social media. So insubordination is when you refuse to do something, especially if you do it in public, like in front of a team at a team meeting, or in any kind of a place where other people are going to be seeing you be insubordinate. That is a really good reason for dismissal. So if you refuse to do something or to comply with something, if you don't carry out instructions properly, and if you do that 2 or 3 times in a row, you're likely to lose your job, because some instructions are very critical. And if they aren't critical, you should find out what it is that you don't understand about it. So it is very, very important to make sure that you are compliant. Doesn't mean that you've got your nose on the ground and you're just saying, what can I do? What can I do? It means that you are following instructions. If you're given instructions, you're careful about carrying them through. Let me give you an example. I have a friend who recently made a job posting. She got 100 replies. In the job posting, she asked for a specific thing to be included in the first paragraph of the cover letter. And it was, you have to use the word simple green smoothies in the first paragraph of the cover letter. Do you know that of all 100 people that applied, only 2 of them followed the instruction? So guess what? She didn't interview any of those other people because they didn't follow the instructions. Maybe it seemed like a stupid idea, but you know what? Her goal was to find out, do I have somebody who's going to follow the instructions? So 98 people automatically lost an opportunity because they didn't follow the instructions. So make sure you're following the instructions. That's part of being a good employee. And then the last thing is social media. 33%, according to, let me see, SHRM. So SHRM did a bunch of research on why employees were dismissed. And 33% were dismissed because of inappropriate comments on social media about their boss or their workplace. Don't do it. I know I've said that in other posts before, but you know, you cannot go public with criticism of your employer. It's like biting the hand that feeds you. So, you know, your employer is feeding you by paying you. You turn around and bite that hand is likely to slap you, not feed you. So do not criticize your employer on social media, unless, of course, you have some class action suit and that's part of your job, but most people don't, and you're better off to say something positive or say nothing at all. You know, when you're growing up, people would say things like, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. It's the same thing with your employer. Say nothing or take it to the right people who can deal with it. Don't backbite your employer on social media. Okay, so those are all the things you have control over. If you are not doing any of those things and you lost your job, what could be the reason? These are things you don't have control over. Well, there's downsizing, mergers and acquisitions, there's a volatile economy, bankruptcy, and all the stuff that your employer has to then lose people because they just don't have the money because things have changed in the economy and they haven't been able to bounce back or respond to it, or maybe seasonal. And it's also possible that you leave for some reason. You leave, and this happens all the time. You leave on maternity, you leave on a vacation, and someone else comes in part-time, fills in your job, and does a better job than you. And you end up being the person who leaves, and the person that was in your place is hired instead. So that's another thing that happens. You don't necessarily have control over that, but you can by doing a good job and letting people know about it. But so this is not having control list. There's a few more things. You may have a terrible boss. In fact, 69% of U.S. workers say that their boss is terrible. 69%. I don't know what it is in Canada. It's harder to find the stats in Canada on that sort of thing. But if your boss is, prejudiced, small-minded, a bully, promotes a toxic workplace, that is something that you do not have any control over. But you can mitigate it. If you just do a Google search on dealing with a toxic boss. There are some really good articles out there on things you can do to deal with the toxic boss, and even some books that have been written about it. So you can try some of those things depending on what the toxicity of your boss is, to see if you can mitigate it and keep your job. Another thing is politics. So people often don't have an understanding of the office politics, or they say, I just don't do office politics. I just do my job. That's a big mistake. It's a mistake I've made. And you have to be aware of whatever the political undercurrent is in your workplace. What's happening? Who has more influence? Who doesn't? Which groups are working together and which are not? Which individuals have issues with which other individuals? You need to pay attention to those things. Those things, if you don't pay attention to them, can be a reason why you lose your job. That's also why my mother lost her job twice. So, that it's something that happens to a lot of people, and it's usually people who are hardworking and dedicated employees who would prefer to do their job rather than to participate in the office politics. Doesn't mean you have to participate in them, but you do have to be aware of them and make sure you don't step in the wrong place, because you could end up in a minefield that explodes. Not good. And the explosion is going to mean you lose the job. Okay, another reason is it's maybe a workplace that has a toxic culture. So if the workplace has a toxic culture, it's a group of haters that are the dominant culture in the workplace. And they do everything they can to make people join their hater group. And anyone who doesn't, they squeeze them out. So those are all things you do not have control over. So now, third thing, what are the clues that you might be losing your job? Because there are clues. All the time there are clues. And for this, I want to give you an example. And the example comes from a job that I was fired from. And I actually saw the clues and I knew it was going to happen. And so I knew it was going to happen, and I was just waiting for the right moment to make sure that when it did happen, it happened to my advantage in a way that was not going to make me lose anything from it. Okay? So the situation had all the clues that I'm going to tell you about. First thing, your boss starts acting differently towards you. Okay, so your boss, the behavior is just going to be different. It's not going to be the same as it was before. You're going to feel that there's been a shift in attitude towards you, and the boss will start doing different things. They'll do things like say, I want to report on your progress, and I want to see it every week, and I want it on my desk by Wednesday, and they might never have wanted that before. They're going to say, I want you not to work on this part of the project anymore. You may notice that other colleagues have been assigned a greater workload, and some of that workload is yours, no longer yours because it's been taken from you. You may notice that people's colleagues are more secretive around you. They seem to be fake and they're not telling you things. You may not be invited to key meetings that you were invited to before. Your opinion and your feedback may not be solicited as it was before. You can notice that a bunch of things in the office that would have been normal before, like maybe other people who invited you for lunch don't do it anymore. So you're going to see all of those things. You might also be complimented, or people might be treating you more, it's like sort of as if they're trying to, placate a child. Or they may be criticizing you. So you may be getting a whole bunch of criticism that you didn't get before, and people seem to be unhappy. There's tension all around. You may be asked to train someone, and that's not normally part of your job. Or you're already training someone, they say, now we want you to train this person, we want you to train them on this, that, or the other thing. And it's obvious that you're training them on your job. Okay, so that can be another clue. Communications change or stop is a really big red flag, so you have to watch for that. And oftentimes if there's a change in the leadership, what happens is people lose their jobs. So watch your back if there's a change in leadership, and the thing to do is to go and introduce yourself and show how you contribute value to the company, to the new leader, so they remember you and you stand out. So, which brings me actually to what you can do so that you don't lose a job, and that's the first one. Oftentimes people lose their job because they're too quiet and they're too much doing their job by themselves in an isolated way. Your boss does not know what you do. You have to explain it and keep them in the loop. You don't want to be annoying about it, but you do want to keep them in the loop. You want to be communicating to your team members on a regular basis. So all of those things matter. If you have a difficult boss, the saying that is most helpful is keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. So if your boss is difficult, you need to update your boss more. You need to ask for one-on-ones regularly. You need to take notes and watch for the clues in the boss's behavior. All of those things are going to help you avoid being dismissed if you want to keep the job. Let me see if I missed anything. Yes, meet with your immediate supervisor and say, is there something I can do, or a few things I could do to improve my outcomes in your eyes? What should I be doing to do a better job of my position? Give me some tips. I appreciate your advice. So that can help you to gain favor, and also gives you some clues that things might need to be fixed because of a variety of reasons that I explained earlier on. So you might want that. And the other thing you can do is mitigate for boss incompetence. And I explained that you look for how to deal with a toxic boss, and look that up and get some things and try them out and see how that's working. And the last thing that you can do is just look for another job. So start thinking ahead of time that you may need another job, and that job is something that you have to start looking for now. Don't wait for the axe to fall and then go look for a job. That's the biggest mistake everybody I meet makes. They wait until they finish their studies before they start looking for work. They wait until somebody tells them they have to learn something before they learn it. They wait until the axe falls before they look for another job. Don't do that. Be proactive. Start thinking about what the next step is now so that you don't get blindsided by it. So those are the clues. And if you want to get in touch with me, you can. You can always message me on Facebook. And it's Marie Gervais. You can message me on Facebook. You can message me through the Facebook page. You can connect with me through marie@shiftworkplace.com. And you can also connect directly through the website on the contact page, shiftworkplace.com. So all of those things you can do to get a hold of me. And if you have a workplace question that you would really like to have answered, please send it to me. I can either respond to it this way, we can do it through a coaching session, I can put up the answer on the page or in Twitter. So all of those things are great. You can also tweet me at Canadian Workplace. So if you do that, then all of those ways are ways that I'm going to respond to, and you can connect with me. So in a recap, there are things that you have control over that will affect you getting fired or not. And those things usually have to do with integrity, with showing up on time, with being there and doing the job, with being productive, not complaining about your boss, and following instructions properly. So that you have control over. Things you don't have control over are the things that have to do with the economy or the company being downsized or just having a nasty boss. Things you can, that are clues, are that things start to change in communications and people's behavior towards you. You may be asked to do things differently or less of what you're normally doing, be asked to give a whole bunch of reports. All of those are clues that something is going wrong and that you need to fix it. And finally, what can you do? What you can do is you can first ask for a meeting with your immediate supervisor and ask what you can do to improve your job or your productivity or your outputs or whatever. And secondly, you can work to mitigate the difficult boss by applying some toxic boss mitigation techniques. You can also step up your communications. And finally, you can look for another job because it may just be a really bad fit. And in the case where I lost the job, I knew it was a bad fit. And I was expecting it to happen. I was already looking for another job as I was working on it, and I was very careful about keeping my boss informed about everything that I was working on to make sure there was no reason why I would get a bad reference. And so all of that is something that is helpful. And I suggest that before things start to get bad, so once you start noticing a couple of clues, find somebody in your workplace who can write you a reference letter or give you a referral and say you just always like to keep your portfolio updated. And get that before you leave to make sure that when you leave, nobody's going to want to give you a referral. So you want to make sure that you get that ahead of time from somebody who knows your work. Unless, of course, your work's been terrible, in which case you should just go and try a restart. Okay, I hope that helps. Your call to action today is go to our Canadian Workplace YouTube channel. We have lots of awesome videos there. Some of them are 30 seconds, some of them are 3 minutes. There's a few more of these Ask Marie sessions that are on there that can be helpful on specific career building topics. So go to our Canadian Workplace channel on YouTube and subscribe. And I would love it if you would do that, because once we get to 100 subscribers, we can use our real name in the URL. And also then we get more eyes on the helpful career building videos, which is good for everybody. So thanks a lot for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the post. Remember to share it, and remember to like the page and go on to our YouTube channel. Thanks a lot, and talk to you again in a couple of weeks.